The two of these things basically go hand in hand. You know, you need discipline to stay committed to something, whether it's a goal, whether it's a certain lifestyle that you're trying to live, or whatever. So I'm going to talk a little bit about discipline, and then Chris is going to go into commitment a little bit. So discipline is basically the ability to make good choices. You know, being disciplined leads to making good choices, which leads to building good habits, which leads to developing a positive lifestyle or whatever type of lifestyle you want. You know, it's kind of the foundation for everything. So Darren Hardy, you know, talks about the compound effect. Discipline is essential because every single choice you make compounds over time. You know, so if you make a bad choice today and you say, oh, well, it's just today, guess what? You could say the same thing tomorrow and the same thing the next day, and before you know it, a year goes by and you've been making bad choices for a whole year. Whereas on the other hand, you know, if you make a good choice today, you make a good choice tomorrow, and you take it one day at a time, after a couple weeks, you're not even going to realize it because it becomes a habit. You know, discipline builds habits, and those habits become your lifestyle. You know, I'd say about 80% of the things you do on a daily basis are because of habits. So you've got to make sure that you're developing good habits. And by no means are these easy things to do. You know, it's something that I think all of us struggle with every single day is doing the right thing and making the right choice and staying disciplined. But it's crucial to following up with these goals. So, I mean, I'm going to leave it with a quote right here, and then we'll get into commitment a little bit. But Jim Rohn had a quote saying, we all must suffer one of two things, and it's either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. So if you think about that's so true, because, you know, it's tough being disciplined, but it's even worse being undisciplined, at least in the long run.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you know, to go off of discipline just really quick, like he mentioned, discipline builds habits. There's this huge myth out there that if you stay disciplined to doing something for 21 days straight, it becomes a habit. That's actually a myth. There's actually been studies done between the ages of between people the ages of 4 years old and the age of 72 years old. And they studied these people for a period of time to see if they could develop certain habits and how long it would take these people to develop habits. And they actually found out that the average days to create a habit is actually 66 days, so a little over 2 months. So that whole myth of 21 days and you're going to form a habit, a lot of people say if you quit smoking for 21 days, just cold turkey, you'll never want a cigarette again because you'll have that habit of you know, or you'll have that habit of not smoking after 21 days. It's completely false. It takes a lot more than 21 days. The average, like I said, between 4-year-olds and 72-year-olds came out to 66 days to develop a habit. So talk about discipline. Imagine, you know, not smoking for 66 days. Then you're on a good track. That would take a lot of discipline to do, but like he said, it leads to a lot of good choices, it leads to a lot of good results, and the worst thing you could do is regret something, right, for not being disciplined. So leading on to commitment, you know, hand in hand with discipline, commitment is honestly the number one thing I would say in regards to success. You know, it's hard to put this, but if you're not committed to something and you're not giving 100% to whatever you're committed to, it's going to be very tough. It's going to be very difficult to succeed and hit the goals that you've set for yourself, if you've even set goals, right? So, for example, I need to be into my office at 8 a.m. every morning. I don't need to be, actually. I really don't need to be. But I decide to be at my office at 8 a.m. every morning before every single other real estate agent gets in that office, because I want to be the first one on the phones calling the new expired, canceled, and FSBO listings. Okay? Around 8:30 to about 9 o'clock, that's when the other agents start rolling in, and I've already called the new expireds, canceled, and FSBO listings out there. So I'm the first one that has, I give myself that opportunity. And I've disciplined myself by doing that, by getting into the office at 8 a.m. and getting on those phones. Now, it wasn't easy at first because that means I had to wake up earlier, I need to go through my morning routine earlier, and I need to leave my house at an earlier time. How did I do that? I decided, first I made a decision. Okay, so before commitment, you have to make the decision to be committed. There's a story actually that Eric Worre told me, and he says, you need to be the rock in the river. Okay, and what I mean by that, here, think of the river, okay, the water flowing as distractions, people who are haters, critics, whatever you want to call it, any disruptions during your day. That is the river. Okay, if you're a little pebble, that means you haven't really made a decision to stay, and you're just going to float along with the water. You're going to take whatever comes along. and you're just going to flow the way the river's flowing. Okay, if you decide to be the rock in the river, everything will flow around you, and things become much easier. The river people need a smooth road. Okay, the people that are the little tiny rocks that struggle to make a decision, right, and can't stay committed to something. Those are the people that just go with the flow of things. You want to be the rock in the middle of the river. Okay, so how do you develop commitment? How did I develop the habit of getting into the office by 8 a.m. and on the phones by 8 a.m. every single morning? Easiest way possible is find an accountability partner. Okay, this is the most simple way to stay committed to anything. Find somebody that's going to hold you accountable. And when it comes to accountability, you are your own worst enemy. Okay, think about